Our next proclamation is on International Transgender Day of Visibility.
I do want to thank the Thurston County Board of Health for recognizing International Transgender Day of Visibility, especially at this time when our community, which comprises about 2% of the population at best, is coming under severe attack from the current regime in Washington, D.C. We are simply human beings trying to live our lives. We have been lately receiving a lot of contacts from people fleeing from red states that have particularly repressive policies with regarding things like name changes on birth certificates, access to health care, especially for minors. We're scrambling to find resources for essentially refugees within our own borders.
Transgender, non-binary, and intersex people face high rates of discrimination and violence, and that hostility is only continuing to rise.
All right, our next proclamation is on International Transgender Day of Visibility, and I'd like to introduce Lucas and Quinn, who will also introduce themselves and give a few words about this important proclamation.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, Dr. Harvey, thank you very much for having us here today. And I do want to thank the Thurston County Board of Health for recognizing International Transgender Day of Visibility, especially at this time when our community, which comprises about 2% of the population at best, is coming under severe attack from the current regime in Washington, D.C. Now more than ever, we need our allies to not only stand behind us, but to step up and be visible as we have been thrust into visibility. And it's more important than ever that we be seen, that people understand that we are simply human beings trying to live our lives. And I'm on the board of PFLAG Olympia, which is the local chapter of a national organization, the oldest and largest national organization serving LGBTQ plus people, their friends, families, and allies. And we have been lately receiving a lot of contacts from people fleeing from red states that have particularly repressive policies with regarding things like name changes on birth certificates, access to health care, especially for minors, the ability to get a passport with the proper gender marker. We're scrambling to find resources for essentially refugees within our own borders. That we should have come to a crisis like this would have been unimaginable just 10 years ago, but here we are. Among other things, those people are going to need housing, employment, and access to health care. And they're coming here because Washington has, a reputation of being very friendly to our community. Quinn, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, I do want to thank everyone for inviting me to attend today and for proclaiming March 31st International Transgender Day of Visibility. I am here on behalf of the New Boys Club, and my co-admin wasn't able to make it, so we kind of just wrote up something together here. Now more than ever, it is important to be visible. Transgender, non-binary, and intersex people face high rates of discrimination and violence, and that hostility is only continuing to rise. I am here on behalf of the New Boys Club, a peer-led support and discussion group for adults assigned female at birth who identify as transgender or non-binary. Community need for our group and organizations like us has been, and will continue to be, important partly due to ongoing discrimination. The biggest threat recently is discriminatory legislation at the federal level, notably Executive Order 14128, which withdrew federal recognition of transgender, non-binary, and intersex people. Our community faces significant health disparities and has less access to health care. This order impacts our health not just by threatening access to gender-affirming healthcare, but through redacting research and terminating grants, all because they have keywords relating to LGBTQ+ people. I am grateful to live in Washington State, where Governor Ferguson and Attorney General Brown have made it clear that they will uphold state laws that protect transgender Washingtonians. I am grateful to live in Olympia, which has recently been declared a sanctuary city for the LGBTQ+ community. We do not take these protections for granted, but we also know it is not enough. This proclamation is one step towards a better future, and I hope the beginning of much more work that needs to be done. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for them or things that you guys would like to say?
I would like to say thank you for coming today. I know the current climate for the transgender community is very tense. A lot of questions about what's coming. I want to thank as well the city of Olympia for the proclamation declaring Olympia as a sanctuary city. I think that that's really powerful to be vocal about the support for the transgender community and the LGBTQ community as a whole. I've recently been having discussions with constituents about this who would like to see the county take a stronger stance on our support for the transgender community. And it's something that people care a lot about. It's something I care a lot about, and I think everyone at this table probably could say the same. So I just want to say, in a time where there's so much uncertainty and there's so much fear, I appreciate you coming here today just to talk to us. And we're here to support, and please reach out if there's anything we can do now or in the future.
Well, we thank you for inviting us. It's good to have an opportunity to connect with our allies in bodies like this that, have some sway in how, what kinds of resources can be marshaled, in support of our community. As I said, we're about 2% of the population. That's not a huge, section of the electorate. So now more than ever, we need our allies, to be standing with us. And we deeply appreciate that this board is willing to visibly stand up and issue this proclamation.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm glad to see you today. I'll be glad to see you on the 31st. And every day we pass in town. I'm glad to celebrate visibility and recognition. And I wanted to plant a seed here. I had a constituent sit down with me who asked, where in government is it decided who can come in and visit somebody if they're in the hospital or they're in jail, or and it's particularly an issue for LGBTQIA, et cetera, folks, but it's also broadly an issue for platonic friends who've lived together as housemates for years and years, and somebody gets in a car accident. So I don't know I don't know where those rules live, but I just had somebody sit down with me to say that that would be a very important thing for them to address, being able to have somebody important to them be with them if they were hospitalized. So.
We can capture that question, do some research, and bring
Thank you.
that back.
Thank you. I also want to thank you all for coming today. I mean, we are seeing, we're seeing actions already being taken in our community. And we saw that recently with Tumwater School District at the last Board of Health agenda. We were talking about the mental health impact that this is having on so many of our youth. And so it is very important to be visible and for allies to be visible at this time, because I think if we're not vocal about it, it's so much easier for misinformation to spread. And there is a lot of that going on. And it was very sad to see a lot of that in our community here recently. But I just really want to thank you. You've been great partners for the Board of Health, and we want to be partners too with your organizations and support you as well.
Thank you. We did actually have the chair of the school district, the Tumwater School District, attend our PFLAG meeting on Sunday to kind of counter some of that misinformation and explain, what the vote was and what was going on with that. And our president and secretary are scheduled to meet with the principal of Tumwater High School. So we are very deeply involved in that decision and its repercussions. We're communicating with the GSAs at Tumwater High School and other high schools in the district. And yeah, we are hearing much the same, that young people are, afraid right now, as are, many of their adult peers. But, you can't fight only when it's safe, right? I mean, you have to be willing to stand up even when it's dangerous to do so, because that's the way that progress is made. So, some of us are able, I should say, have the privilege of being able to do that, and we're using it. And, again, we deeply appreciate our allies who are willing to stand with us.
Thanks. And I would personally like to thank you as well as aunt of a transgender nephew, who I'm very proud of. And as a pediatrician who knew it would be so controversial to provide health care. And so just know there are a lot of people willing to stand with you and also take some of the flack.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, shall we read the proclamation? Willing to start on your end, Commissioner Minster?
Okay, Thurston County Proclamation, International Transgender Day of Visibility. Whereas International Transgender Day of Visibility was founded in 2009 by US-based transgender activist Rachel Crandall Crocker, Executive Director of Transgender Michigan, to acknowledge and honor the successes achieved by transgender people. And
whereas in Washington State, at least 33,300 adults and 5,000 youth ages 13 to 17 identify as transgender. And
Whereas annually, organizations around the world recognize International Transgender Day of Visibility to celebrate the accomplishments and victories of transgender and gender nonconforming people while raising awareness of the work still needed to save transgender lives. And
whereas International Transgender Day of Visibility is intended to recognize and celebrate the work being done by transgender advocacy groups as they fight for dignity and equal rights for members of the transgender community, to build inclusive and healing spaces, and to protect and defend those who are most vulnerable. And
Whereas Thurston County recognizes the significant contributions made by transgender people and affirms they are vital members of our community.
Now therefore be it resolved, the Thurston County Board of Health hereby proclaims March 31st as International Transgender Day of Visibility in Thurston County, and urges all residents to celebrate the accomplishments made by transgender and gender nonconforming people while raising awareness of the work that still needs to be done to save transgender lives. Adopted this 11th day of March 2025, Board of Health.
great.